How to make content more accessible online. A general guide. Disclaimer. This guideline follows the guidance of WCAG 2.1 guidelines as of June 5, 2018, and incorporates a few reputable sources as well as best practices. This guide serves as a general guide. If you have specific questions not covered by this guide, please still double-check with WCAG 2.1 guidelines or its most current version. Before we begin, it is important to know that both Word and PowerPoint have an accessibility checker. You can check your accessibility by going to Review and Check Accessibility. WCAG, or Web Content Accessibility Guideline, version 2.1 was updated on June 5, 2018. It creates recommendations for making web content on desktops, laptops, tablets, and mobile devices more accessible to people with compromised abilities. It covers 4 most relevant guiding sections. Perceivable. Information and user interface components must be presentable to users in ways they can perceive. Operable. User interface component and navigation must be operable. Understandable. Information and operation of the user interface must be understandable. Robust. Content must be robust enough that it can be interpreted by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technologies. This tutorial will focus on the accessibility for 9 elements: images, graphs, and tables, videos and narrated PowerPoint, text, formats, colors, hyperlinks, layout and navigation, reading levels, and content delivery. Images, graphs, and tables. Alternative text, or alter text. It describes the content and functions of images, graphs, and tables for screen readers to read. Instead of adding an image without an alter text, write useful alter text for your images and other non-text content. For example, this is a graph about the trends of meditation. It grew 30% by 2019. If your image is for decoration, write decorative. If you are playing with multiple images, rather than not grouping them first group those images together, then add alternative text. To add alter text for one image, you can right-click on the image, then select alter text. For multiple images, you can right-click on the image, then select group to group them first, then select alter text to add text. For tables, you can right-click on a table, then select Table Property to add text. Videos and narrated PowerPoint. Rather than providing no transcript for your videos, provide transcriptions and captions for all your videos, audios, or narrated PowerPoint. You can first write your script, then add them to the videos. If you don't have a script written, you can use a software to automatically transcribe your video. If you upload your video to Kaltura, you can request automatic transcription, then edit the transcription. If you upload your video onto YouTube, your video will be automatically transcribed. You can also use softwares to transcribe while you speak, such as Google Voice Type. Go to Tools, then select Voice Type. Or you can use a software called Altar.ai. Microsoft also has a voice type. Search How to do voice type in Word on YouTube. Text. Width. Rather than an overwhelming text wall with more than 80 characters per line, Use simple sentences and keep each line with no more than 80 characters, because it will be easier to read on a mobile device. In order to keep an 80 character per line, you can create a table to limit the number of characters per line. Then make the table border invisible or 0 point. Font. Rather than a serif font, try to use sans serif fonts because it displays clearly even in small sizes. Underline. Rather than relying on underlines to emphasize text, use other sensory characteristics such as size, boldness, shape, and location to emphasize. Underlines are reserved for hyperlinks or tracking changes only. Spacing. Rather than crowding text together, keep spacing within the paragraph at 1.5 times the font size and 2 times the font size between paragraphs. Alignment. Rather than select Justify to align text to both left and right, align your text to either left or right, then it can adjust to various sizes of display screens. Meaning. Rather than using just text to deliver your meaning, try to use additional images or graphs to support your text. Scan. Use an optical character recognition or OCR scanner when you digitize your document. It preserves each character in a physical document for editing in the future. You can use an app such as Microsoft Office Lens. You can first take a picture using the app, then it will scan your document into readable text such as Word or PDF. Formats. Rather than using your own styles for headings, make sure you use built-in styles for your headings and use specific language to describe for your titles and headings. Rather than not including a table of content, do make sure that you have a table of content in all documents you have. And if you have already used built-in style headings, all you need to do is insert table of content. Colors. Rather than using complicated colors, just use simple colors. Rather than relying on colors to emphasize meaning, use other sensory characteristics such as size, boldness, shape, and location to jointly convey meaning. If color is used in an image or chart, rather than offering no additional explanations, use text to explain the meaning of colors. Rather than using low contrast colors, make the contrast of color next to each other at least 3:1. Rather than using low contrast between text and background, keep color contrast between text and background at least 4.5:1 if text is less than 18 point size or 14 point bold, or at least 3:1 if text is at least 18 point size or 14 point bold. Typically, the color contrast between black text and white background is 21:1. And you can use a color contrast checker by going into webm.org/resources/contrast checker to check your color contrast. And whenever possible, choose a platform where users can select their own preferred foreground and background colors. Hyperlinks. Rather than adding the hyperlink directly, Provide meaningful descriptions to the hyperlinks. For example, go to personal goals to learn more. Layout and navigation. Rather than a never-ending complex layout, build a simple, linear, predictable, and consistent layout, so it is easier to navigate and adjust to multiple devices. Rather than arranging instructions and action buttons out of context, align the instructions with action buttons, so both information and actions are in the same context. Rather than no navigation instructions, provide simple instructions to help users navigate, find content, and determine where they are, and explain what will happen when an action is completed. Rather than using vague language for buttons, use specific language for navigation labels and describe topic or purpose, so when learners see those labels, they will know exactly where they're going. Rather than not mentioning the time, estimate how much time it will take for a task and allow enough time for learners to complete tasks so people can arrange their busy schedules to make things happen. In PowerPoint, reading order is important because it guides the reading order for screen readers. Rather than forgetting about the reading order and just leave it as it be, or you can arrange reading orders from bottom to top so a screen reader can read it. You can go to PowerPoint, Home, Arrange, Selection pane, drag and move the element. And make sure to check if your content can be navigated using keyboard alone. It helps people with limited mobility to navigate. You can Google keyboard testing to learn more. Reading levels. Rather than blending important information with the rest, make important information stand out from the rest. Rather than making the content so difficult to understand, use short, clear, and plain language to make the context and text readable and easily understandable. Usually, reading levels required for the text should not exceed lower secondary education levels. If reading comprehension at college level is one of the learning objectives, then keep navigation language easily understandable. Content delivery. When possible, always add one additional content format, preferably with more accessibility. For example, if you have a PowerPoint, add a narrated PowerPoint videos to help students learn and understand the content. Finally, rather than just making the decisions on your own, ask your student for their preferred content delivery format and channels. And it concludes our tutorials about how to make content more accessible online.